general attitudes towards work have changed enormously. I don't think a lot of employers have taken that on board and adjusted the way that they operate. We now operate a hybrid working pattern, which is something we never used to do before COVID. It wasn't really something in the radar.
What do you think is the hardest part of managing a team?
People are individuals, so it depends on the individual. If you have people with the right mindset, it's actually quite easy. We've had employees before that haven't had a suitable work ethic, a work mindset, and it has been challenging. They've not really added. In fact, like you were saying earlier, they've actually disrupted the rest of the team.
Hi everyone, you're listening to the Unrelenting Drive podcast, and before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know I started this podcast because over the years I've had hundreds of the most inspiring conversations of my life with small business owners, and they really helped me grow and scale my own business and get my mindset right even when times were really tough. I wanted to capture those conversations and make them available to other small business owners who are following in my footsteps, and I've just got a small request. If you enjoy this episode, if you find it really inspiring, if you find it helps you in your own business, then please just like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The more subscribers we get, the more we can invest in making the podcast better. So enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, it's Nishi here and we're watching the Unrelenting Drive podcast, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Wills from Wills Consultants. And Simon, thank you so much for joining us. If you could let everyone know what you do.
Yes, thanks, Nishi. Wills Consultants, we're a recruitment consultancy, first and foremost. We specialise in the engineering sector as well as commercial finance and accountancy roles, and also white-collar office roles, so that could be HR, marketing, that sort of position. Most of our roles tend to be Northamptonshire or the surrounding counties, Bedfordshire and so on, but we do cover the whole country really. So we've had roles in Glasgow, in Hampshire, and Lowestoft in the east and so on. So it's quite a large geographical spread that we have. And in fact, last year we had a project in Sheffield where we recruited for a site, and there was 50 new recruits to a new site. So that was a complete one-off project, which was very interesting.
Did you have exclusivity on that?
We did, yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. That was part of an RPO agreement, so we managed the whole recruitment process for a particular client of ours.
Hey, what does RPO stand for again?
Recruitment process outsource. So essentially,
got it. Okay, yeah.
If you're a business and you wanted to, rather than have an in-house recruiter or appoint various firms to recruit for you, you basically sort of palm everything off to do with recruitment, forget about it, and it's all taken care of for you.
That's right. That might be quite a common term in your industry, but I always whenever people use an acronyms or something, I try and get them to elaborate just in case there's someone watching that's not aware. Yeah. But okay, that's really cool.
Yeah. And in terms of the sort of roles we recruit for, it could be a new starter, so it could be somebody straight out of school, university, right through to board level appointments. So it's the kind of whole range of roles, and that's permanent, temporary and fixed term contract positions as well. So it's quite a broad offering we have for clients, but it is targeted to those sort of three main business sectors, and more so engineering, particularly in the last few years. Okay,
amazing. And how did you go from leaving school to doing what you do now?
Right, many years ago. Well, it starts with a bit of a sad story actually. My father died when I was about 14. And if you've ever had a son, you'll know that's quite a crucial period in their lives, late teens. So I was left quite rudderless for the back end of my secondary education. Nonetheless, I was admitted into A-levels, and I was taking physics, mathematics, and I think economics. But it turned out that the world of academia wasn't really for me. It wasn't something that really interested me at that time. I've always been quite a practical, hands-on sort of individual. So after the first year of A-levels, I decided to exit that and look at something else. And I went to Northampton University, as it's called now, or Ning College, when I went there. And they had a range of courses that they were sort of offering at the time. And the one that really sort of caught my eye was civil engineering and construction, which was a 2-year course, a high national diploma, which I think is like a 2-year, or equivalent to 2 years, a sort of a graduate role essentially. So I completed that course, got the qualification, and then entered the world of work. And I went to various sort of roles within the sort of construction / property sector. It involved quite a lot of travelling. I was very often sort of travelling down to London, early starts, late finishes. So the work-life balance was quite out of kilter at that time, which is fine. I was young, so you can handle it more when you're young. But my wife was expecting our first child in 2002, so about 9 months, funny enough, before that. We decided that I was to look for something that was a bit more in line with the sort of work-life balance that I was looking for and would sort of help her as well. And I looked at various options, and again, the one that really sort of caught my eye was recruitment. And I went for a couple of interviews, went for 2 interviews actually, and got offered 2 roles. One was with an IT recruiter based in Milton Keynes, and the second, which is the one I took, was for an accountancy and finance specialist, which was based in Northampton. I think it was St Giles Street. But they had a network of about 15 offices throughout the country, mainly sort of Midlands. That was their sort of primary operating area. Joined, got on very well, sort of, took to it like a bit like duck to a water. I do remember about a month or so after I started, 9/11 hit, and we used to have a sort of news TV on the news in the office, and I do remember on that day everything just stopped. It was quite a strange situation, and the world of work also changed as well slightly. The economy started to dip out at that time as well, but it carried on. Everything went sort of fine in terms of the actual job itself. I then got promoted to manager after about a year. I had sort of previous management roles, so I was previously experienced in managing individuals and people. And I think the manager left, or he got promoted to an area manager role, so I sort of stepped into his shoes. And again, all going well. However, I found they were in the process of being acquired, or they were acquired at this stage by Brook Street, whose parent company is Manpower. So Manpower is quite a large corporate entity, American-owned corporate entity. And when I first joined the company, they were very much kind of which is what I liked them really, they're quite in line with my own sort of work pattern, which was long-term business relationship development, quality rather than quantity. And you can see the writing on the wall. A new area manager was appointed, and all of a sudden it was about numbers rather than people. So I spent most of my time as a manager putting stats together, which could be quite easily automated. But a lot of my time was spent reporting on how many phone calls people had made, how many CVs had sent out, with no kind of reference to what quality or what the purpose of that was. So I was getting a little bit disheartened with it, really. And coincidentally, at that time, I got approached. I was headhunted by a local independent firm who I think had just opened up a second office. They had one in Northampton and one in Milton Keynes, if I remember rightly. And I knew of them quite well, actually, because we were always coming across each other. So we were competing for similar sorts of roles. Again, their specialism was the accountancy and finance positions. And got offered the role there. I was there about 3 years, I think. So I was 4 years in the first company, 3 years at the second. And they expanded their business. There were 4 directors of that business, who I got on with very well. Individually, got on with good relationships with them. And I was at the stage of my career then, I think we just had our second child, of thinking, okay, what's the long-term view here? What do I want to be doing in 5-10 years' time? And I didn't want to be employed. It was quite a risk, obviously, because, the young family, stepping into the world of essentially being self-employed or working for yourself, that guarantee of a salary had gone. But I did say to the directors at the time what my plans were and whether they were interested in me sort of buying stakeholding in the business, but they weren't. They were quite closed about that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. So I actually got approached by a contact that I've known for many years who was a commercial accountant who used to work for a firm in Northampton. And he had an acquaintance who coincidentally worked for the first firm that I did. So as I left, he kind of started, which is where he was at the time. And this third partner, he sort of put us both in touch with each other, and we decided to set up a business. This was probably about 2006, and there were 2 operational partners, me and the other guy, and the introductory partner was more of a silent partner. But he did add a lot of value. He used to come with a lot of, obviously, financial acumen, commercial input as well. So I thought he added a lot of value. But as that company progressed, we expanded it. We opened a second office, I think, back end of 2007, early 2008, Yep, just before the financial crisis.
Yeah.
So timing was awful there, but we'd expanded both offices to about sort of 5 or 6 people in each office.
Okay.
And things were going well. But my other operational business partner wanted the silent partner to exit. He just felt that he wasn't really adding a lot of value to the business. And we came to an agreement, and he did exit, so it left the 2 operational partners.
Why was the silent partner there in the first place?
Well, he provided some of the funds.
Okay.
And he was the introductory partner for both of us, so he put us both together essentially.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
So he was the conduit that kind of made it happen in the first place. And as I say, I think he added a lot of value. He came with a lot of financial acumen, commercial acumen. He had been running large businesses, so he had a lot of strategic input as well. But he exited, and the problem when you have 2 is that if you don't agree, there's not a party.
Tiebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a third party to kind of swing one way or the other. And as time progressed, in retrospect, it should have been something I did earlier, but we were going in very different directions. My ethos, work pattern, work ethics were quite different to the other operational partner. And when I looked at the figures, it was like, well, I'm putting in 2-3 times the revenue to the business, but I'm getting out the same reward. So I found it quite frustrating.
How are your values different?
Well, mine was harking back to my first introduction into recruitment, which was long-term business development, quality rather than quantity. And my business partner wanted to look at various other avenues, was more kind of, again...
Just sell, get every customer you can, essentially, or do a replacement you can.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It took a long time. It's a bit like a divorce. And at this time, my wife had started to return to work part-time, so she was also working in the business. She used to do a bit of consultancy work, plus a bit of accounts, credit control. Very good at credit control. And she was obviously quite at the coalface to experience the issues that I faced at that time. So we went through many discussions. Without going into too much detail, we eventually sort of amicably agreed to separate. He kept the company name. I kept other parts, such as the database. The database has been something I've been building up contacts and individuals since 2001. So that was, in my mind, the most valuable part of the business. And there was a transition then. So this was about 2014. So between 2014 and 2015, I then set up Wills Consultants with Nikki, my wife, and co-director. Or boss, as she likes to be called. And
co-boss or overall boss.
Very quickly joined by our current office manager. And Katie does pretty much keeps everything running, so she does a lot of our accounts, a lot of the HR, anything that to do with the administration, so she keeps the engine running essentially. And we've grown the business. I think each year that we've been in operation since 2015, the revenue and the profit, what have you, has increased, and everything was looking really rosy. 2019, and you know what I'm going to say, 2020 hit. We were just thinking, what a great year. We've had a record year. In fact, every year was a record. We'd sort of increased the revenue at each period. COVID hit, and all of a sudden in March, all bets were off. All the jobs that we had live, it was like lights going out on a board, and they were just cancelling. And even roles where we'd agreed a placement, so somebody was waiting to start, they'd resigned from their job, they were being cancelled as well. So individuals were being...
And those people really got caught out with furlough and stuff,
Exactly.
didn't they? I remember that happening for a few of our clients.
Some of them had to sort of call on the mercy of their employer, the one they just resigned from, to say, could you re-engage me on the basis? Because I think that's what the government's directive was to go back to the employer you were most recently employed by to get your furlough.
Well, I thought that was a bit mad. The government's telling you to work around their own policy, or use the loophole in their own policy anyway, but it was
a mad time. I mean, everything was new.
How big's your team now?
There's 6 of us now, so Nikki, myself, Katie, and we had 3 consultants, all...
Sorry, 6 plus 3.
6 in total, so 3 other consultants. And
your office manager.
Yes, so we are looking to grow the team though. So
what are your next hires going to be?
Probably another consultant. We are looking also at a business development route as well to increase the flow of roles into the business.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Because I sometimes think like, recruitment consultants, you're marketing in two different directions, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've got to get the roles, but you've got to get the candidates. So if you can like split that out, it's probably, although then I guess a consultant who really gets to know the candidate and the business they're placing into, that's probably very effective though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
It is very cyclical though. So if you perform a good job for a candidate, so a candidate goes into a role that you place them in, quite often as they progress through their career, they then become recruiters themselves. So they're in a position where they'd recruit individuals into their team. And I've always said, again, goes back to this long-term business relationship development. If you do a good job for somebody as a candidate, even if you don't place them, they usually remember that, and your name will be one that they'd come back to when they need to recruit themselves. Particularly if you keep, little gentle reminders of your presence.
Yeah, and I think quite often people kind of change jobs every couple of years, don't they, or every 2 or 3 years? So
well, it used to be 5. That was kind of the average turnaround for. But
now it's every 3 months probably.
I was just going to say, you look at CVs now, and it is every couple of years, if not quicker sometimes.
But that's going to catch people out eventually. Like it's next time there's a recession, although we only need one more quarter of negative growth for that to happen, but. Yeah. It's like I think that people will start really looking at people's CVs and asking for people who've got that long-term commitment. I kind of think it's a bubble, but I won't go into it too much because I spoke to someone else about it the other day, and that's on the podcast. But I don't know, like talking to a lot of businesses at the moment, recruitment just doesn't seem sustainable in the way it's. Recruitment seems sustainable, but like the way candidates are behaving sometimes, it doesn't seem sustainable.
I mean, I've noticed since the lockdowns finished, since COVID finished, essentially, the attitude of again, everyone's individual, but general attitudes towards work have changed enormously. Yeah. And as employers, I don't think a lot of employers have taken that on board and adjusted the way that they operate. For example, with ourselves, we now operate a hybrid working pattern. Yeah. Which is something we never used to do before COVID. It wasn't really something in the radar. And we do various other things that hopefully keep the staff, happy, engaged, and wanting to stay there for more than a couple of months. I mean,
I fully believe in keeping staff happy and engaged, but I think talking to a lot of employers, and we're an employer as well, I think one of the reasons why, a lot of people haven't shifted to things like hybrid working is because they don't think it will last. But the other side of that is, if it does, they've gambled and gone the wrong way, because that means now they're already on the back foot in terms of getting getting members of staff who do want that. But then there's definitely pros and cons. There's benefits. Some people don't want hybrid working. I mean, maybe it sounds mad, but I wouldn't want hybrid working, but then I'm a business owner. But I've also spoken to quite a few people who don't like the idea, who are employees. But I know I've spoken to loads of people who love it. It's an
individual choice at the end of the day. And depends what their own drivers are. I mean, we've got a consultant working for us who used to work for a firm in Milton Keynes who said no to hybrid working. And for various reasons, she needed a day at home to do various tasks. Still working, but sort of taking care of other things as well. And we could see the value in that. We could see that she was a good consultant, fantastic work ethic. You knew that if she was working from home, she was working from home. It wasn't a case of a day off sort of thing. But again, everyone's individual.
And it depends on the candidate. If they've got a solid work history, then ultimately you can trust them. But if they're relatively junior and they have less experience, then sometimes it is better to have them in the office, I think.
I totally agree with that. And in fact, for our probation period, we don't allow home working because there's that, as you say, that training period where you want them to be engaged with what our processes are and our work methods are. But as soon as they've reached the probation, if they don't have to have hybrid working, if they want to work in the office 5 days a week, they can. But it's something there as an additional incentive, which I think from the sort of conversations we've had, most of the team seem to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. How important would you say the probation period is?
It's essential, really. And a lot of clients tend to have anywhere between 3 and 6 months. That's the usual probation period. I think often you can tell very quickly whether somebody is going to be there long term, just the way and their attitude and their approach to the work and the work ethics I mentioned earlier. You can only put that on for a very short period of time. You know, if your natural style is to turn up late, then you probably start turning up late.
Yeah, I think like however you perform in a probationary period, like or however a member of staff performs in a probationary period, you've got to take like 20% off that for how they'll be afterwards, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that's them on their best behaviour. But I talk to a lot of business owners, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you ask them why do you have a probation period?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, you're meant to." They
No
don't
reason behind it, yeah.
yeah, and they don't understand it. It's like, it's that opportunity to just make sure someone's a good cultural fit, and they've got that right work ethic. Because you know what, hiring staff these days is expensive. Like, no, I mean, I'm not talking about in terms of fees, but like once you paid all the employers' national insurance, the pension, once you paid for all the training and stuff, and actually invested your own time. Because
I was just going to say that the time investment is probably more important, because whilst you're looking after somebody and training them up and getting them into the fold, you're not doing something else.
Yeah.
So that is probably the most crucial aspect to it, is the time that it takes to get them up to speed.
And also, the wrong people in your business make you lose the right ones.
Yes, yeah.
And that can be one of the worst nightmares. So I think we haven't always done it, but especially over the last year, we've definitely been keeping an eye on that probationary period. We've like made sure people are clear what's expected of them.
Yeah.
Once we offer them the job, and then we make sure we do that 6-month review. That's
the key really, Nish. It's to have a plan in place. So if it is, say, a 6 months probation period, what needs to happen on month 1, month 2, month 3? Where should they be? What should they know? And what should you expect from them after that period? And if they're hitting all the markers, fantastic. If they're not, can you adjust it so month 2 they catch up, or month 3 they catch up? And again, if they catch up, great. I mean, we've got 3 consultants to say, in each of those 3 consultants, we've actually signed off on their probation before they've finished it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you don't have to stick it out for the 6 months. If you think, I know that person is the right person, they've shown me everything I need to see, to understand what their drivers are, what their work ethics are, and you're happy with them, and they fit in well with the team, then there is the option there of signing it off earlier.
What's the benefit of doing that?
The benefit is, from their perspective, is they feel they have overachieved.
Okay.
So if you set certain objectives and they hit all of those objectives within a shorter period, because we say to them at the start, the probation period is 6 months, but if you fit all your objectives and we're happy that you fit into the team and vice versa, then we would sign that off quicker.
When you say fit into the team, do you have like a written culture?
Not a written culture, but there is certainly a culture in the team. It is very much a team-orientated setup. Funny enough, I took the team out for breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
And I asked them, how would you describe our culture? What would you say if somebody asked you? And 3 things came out. One was teamwork. So they know, if I got one of our consultants off on holiday today, she knows she's going away for a week or 2 weeks, that her work will be covered, that somebody won't be doing anything nefarious behind her back while she's away, and she'll come back and things just literally pick up the baton and start again. So that was one. Trust was the other, which is a strong part of that teamwork as well. So if you trust your colleagues to do the right thing, and that goes both from the directors to the team and the team to the directors, it did seem a very trusting environment, which is something we try and foster really. And then work ethic, I've referred to a couple of times now. We've had consultants that worked for us in the past, and they were okay, but their work ethic wasn't what we were looking for. And as I say, we've put in place a lot of benefits from a staff point of view, hybrid working, so on. But we expect people, when they are at work, to be working.
You know what, that's... when you mentioned like the teamwork bit, I was it reminds me back to a conversation I had with our team. Was it Holly from our team the other day? Because I was like, I came back from holiday. I was away for 2 weeks, and I think I had 6 emails in my inbox, and they were all FYI because they'd all been dealt with. And I was like, Holly, this is really good. Like, what if we could do it for everyone when they go on holiday and everyone in the team? Because, you know, one of the things people have always told me, not in our team, but other people I know, that they hate about coming back from holiday is having 100 emails to deal with or 1,000 emails to deal with. And she was like, we do it for everyone when they go on holiday. And I was like, okay, excellent. That's like a benefit, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to, because so many people worry about coming back from holiday.
I've been there myself, yeah. When you come back and you've got hundreds of emails, you don't know where to start. You think, well, it's hardly worth having time off, and the stress is when I left now.
Yeah, and we've got that in our culture as well. It's like, you know, make sure, like, when people come back from holiday, they're not, that last day on holiday, they're not thinking about their emails.
Yeah.
And but I think that makes a lot of sense. I guess like sometimes when people look at recruitment, they kind of think they might see a role where it's based on individual effort a lot of the time. So is it natural for people in recruitment to work together as a team, or do you
not
do
in
you
every company again? I
Yeah.
think it depends on the way that the company culture is set up, but I've worked in both environments, and by far, in a way, the most rewarding, I think, is a supportive team structure.
Yeah.
But I've worked in quite cutthroat environments in the past, and you're constantly watching your back. You're constantly thinking, I've got to be, like when you're on holiday, looking at my emails and so on. So I do believe that if you sort of a trusting teamwork culture set up in the business, that will be something that people slot into.
And do your team have bonuses?
We do. We have a quarterly bonus. So at the end of the day, we're a revenue generating business, so we generate placements for clients and we get paid for that placement. Most of our placements see the full term out, so at least a year they're employed for. Occasionally a candidate may leave before they're sort of 4 years out. It may be that they're disengaged from the employer. They haven't sort of lasted their probation period, going back to probation conversation we're having. In which case we offer a rebate. So if the consultant places somebody that falls out of that job after 16 weeks, some of that is clawed back as well. But essentially they're there to generate a revenue for the business. How they do it is quite closely sort of structured, the sort of ethical approach and so on. And we think that if they are putting in the extra effort, if they do have a good work ethic, they should have an additional bonus to reflect that. So we do a quarterly bonus, and then also if they exceed their annual revenue target by X amount, they'll get an additional annual bonus as well. So because sometimes in recruitment you have a good month, you have a bad month. It just depends on how the sort of jobs are flowing, what the market's like.
Do you have any bonus that are linked to team performance?
Yes, in a way. Although it's individual revenue, as I said, they all work as a team, so they all do support each other, and they champion each other as well. So if somebody is a little bit off their target, they will help and support that person achieve their target.
Okay. Yeah. And just out of interest, because I think we had Julie Warner here a few months ago, and she was talking about how a lot of recruitment firms will give a very small basic salary and then load a lot more into the bonuses. Like, what's your opinion on that?
I do think there needs to be a decent living salary to start with. And again, I've worked for firms that have been very commission orientated, which doesn't always lead to the best practice, I feel. And again, they're always the consultants are always concerned about whether they're earning enough money each month. But we pay what we believe is a good, funny enough, we do a lot of benchmarking for our clients. So we benchmark our own salaries against the standard average for the industry, make sure that we're paying in excess of that. So the bonus is just that. It is a bonus for exceptional performance rather than part of the expected pay.
Because I guess if they weren't worth the basic salary, they wouldn't be with you anyway.
No.
So there isn't, whereas some firms where they've got someone on a very low basic salary, then they don't have an incentive to actually move them out of the business if it's not right for both parties. Yeah.
So you can structure the basic salary depending on somebody's experience. So if you have somebody more experienced, they'll probably get a higher basic. But we do a salary review each year. So once a year, we'll look at, again, the current marketplace, what that person has achieved during the year, where they're at in their career, and we'll sort of structure a change each year for them as well.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think is the hardest part of managing a team?
It's a good question. People are individuals, so it depends on the individual. If you have people with the right mindset, it's actually quite easy. You're all striving for the same goal essentially, and you help each other to do that. If you have somebody who is not fitting in with that agenda, then that's where the issues arise. So we've had employees before that haven't had a suitable work ethic, a work mindset. And it has been challenging. They've not really added. In fact, like you were saying earlier, they've actually disrupted the rest of the team because they can see that person isn't pulling their weight. So it actually creates a negative feeling from the rest of the team, even though really it doesn't affect them. But they're, again, part of the team, so it does affect them.
Yeah, I guess. So would you say one of the hardest bits is like firing people then? Because when you identify someone who is actually holding the rest of the team back or causing issues in the rest of the team, I mean, it's still got to be hard to let people go, right?
It surely should be the hardest part, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with a human being, and it's their income, it's their career. So yes, it should be difficult, and it is difficult to do that. I'm glad to say I can't recall more than a couple of people have had to let go or fire.
Yeah.
But sometimes, as a boss, as a business leader, you have to take those tough choices because it can be to the detriment of the rest of the team. So if you don't take that tough choice, actually it can escalate and breed discontentment in the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not insensitive for me to say, but then Ellie can work that out later. But like this year, I guess, I've kind of having a candidate shortage, because I guess a lot of businesses are talking about candidate shortage, although we have always been able to recruit, just maybe not had as many CVs. But I think the candidate shortage has kind of changed my attitude on hiring and firing anyway, because part of me thinks that at the moment, like, there's very little reason someone should be out of a job because there's so many jobs out there. Yeah. So I've been a bit more. I've been having a look in a bit more detail in terms of who we actually have in the business. I think our standards have just been a bit higher this year anyway, and we've probably had more staff turnover this year than for a while, because I think on the other side of, like, being emboldened to let people go, knowing full well they'll be able to go and get another job quite easily. But the other side is like people who weren't quite fitting in, or they weren't quite getting what they wanted and didn't see the future in the business. They've been less reluctant to leave as well. So it's worked in quite a lot of ways, because now what I find is, like, we've got the people in the business who really want to be in the business, whereas I think over the years we've always had good people, but then people were committed to different levels, whereas now we seem to have like one level of commitment from the people we've got, either through actions I took or actions other people took to leave, but also people we attracted because we had a type of person and a very singular culture. And I think it has been good. If there was a recession, for example, and I had to let someone go, I'd feel awful, because it's like, genuinely, how are they gonna feed their family? But at the moment, it's literally people walk out of one job into another. And maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I do kind of feel there's a plus to the candidate shortage, which means you can also let people go without having that issue with your conscience.
It is changing. Really, for quite some time, the market has been very candidate driven.
Yeah.
So you would struggle to find the candidate for the role. It is changing slightly. So the number of jobs has started to increase, and there aren't always. The number of candidates has started to increase, and they're having to do more interviews to be offered a role.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a slow process. I would say over the last sort of 3 to 6 months, it's starting to sort of go the other way, perhaps stabilising, because it has been a very candidate.
It was a bubble, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, again, post-COVID, it's been very candidate-driven. They came out of the marketplace, they retired early. Post-Brexit, obviously, we lost a lot of employment opportunities for candidates. So all sorts of things have happened over the last few years to decrease the labour market or the useful labour market. But as I say, it's perhaps coming a little bit more stable now. So jobs are balancing out.
Do you feel there's a lot of retired people returning to work? Because I know COVID caused early retirement, but I can imagine a lot of the people that took early retirement probably figured out they can't afford to retire.
That's right. I've done it a bit too early.
Yeah, it's a bit too early.
I can't say we've noticed it a tremendous amount. I'm sure there are one or two, but generally it is people that are still in their kind of the throes of their main career, developing their career. That's where most of our candidates come from. But I suppose where we are a little bit different is that most jobs, when they're advertised, is all you're doing is dealing with reactive candidates. So somebody who is actively looking for a job essentially will apply for a role, they've seen it advertised and they'll apply for it. But what we try and do that's different is source candidates that may be thinking about it but aren't necessarily in the marketplace. So these are candidates that we network with, and I've been building a database of these up that aren't, they're not on any CV database, they're not on job boards constantly looking for the next role, but we're aware of what they want to do, what their talents are, what sort of salaries they're looking for, what sort of areas. So if a role comes in, we can contact them as an additional source of candidates.
Yeah.
So it's the proactive sourcing of candidates that I think makes the difference.
You know what? I just thought of a question I've always wanted to ask a recruiter, but I keep forgetting to do it in the last few podcast episodes. So hopefully it's a relatively straightforward one. But
I'm intrigued now.
How do you manage the conflict of interest, or how do you manage your loyalties to the candidate and the recruiter? Because the candidates have got to come from somewhere, and there might be instances where they come from your clients, right?
Not with themselves, no. I do know of companies that will actively source candidates that they've placed previously.
Oh, really? Okay.
But again, part of our ethical approach is that if we've placed a candidate into a client, that's the last time we'll contact them in terms of seeking a role for them unless they contact us.
But will you ever contact one of their colleagues inadvertently? Because
Not if it's an active client.
Okay.
No. So any client that we currently deal with that we have an arrangement with, we wouldn't ever contact.
When you say arrangement, do you mean inclusivity? Sorry, exclusivity.
Yes, so if we had a preferred supply arrangement with them, or the recruitment process or outsourced method that I mentioned earlier.
So that's one of the benefits of giving you that exclusivity, essentially, or preferred
exactly. We
status.
Safeguard and ring fence any candidate that works there. Funny enough, we do get candidates that apply for roles that weren't there. Now that's a different situation. They've actively come to us to apply for a role, and sometimes it's the role that they're for the company they're currently working for, which is interesting.
Oh, right.
But if somebody has come to us independently without prompting, looking for a role, then fine, obviously we'll register them as a candidate and look for them.
But does that cause you any issues with some of your customers?
No, because we work on a reputation. So if we divulged to the client, for example, that one of their employees was leaving, that reputation would be tarnished and they would know that our confidentiality isn't as it should be. So we keep everything completely confidential. So if a candidate approaches us and they're working for a client, we wouldn't mention anything to the client because it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that regard. Yeah.
Okay.
But as I say, that the key really is that you shouldn't really be going back to a client to attract candidates unless they are coming to you independently.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It is. And I guess if someone's just left a business, they've probably got a vacancy, but then you've just got to time it right so you don't go back to them too soon, maybe.
Well, there is that, yeah. So if you've got a candidate who's leaving a business, you'll know that there'll be a vacancy coming up at some stage there. But I've been in a situation where I've actually asked the candidate, look, do they know you're leaving? And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. When they do, will you let me know? So they'll resign one day and then let me know that they've resigned. Say, do you mind if I approach the company to ask them if they are looking to replace you? And as long as, again, you keep, it's about communication. So I think that the key with people-based businesses is communication. If you're informing people of what you're going to do and they consent to it, then everything is in the open. And you can then approach the client with a clear conscience that that person has said, I've resigned, I'm leaving, and more than happy for you to contact the client.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think most people are realistic anyway, aren't they? They know that people will leave their business and they know they'll need people to bring more people into their business.
Every company has turnover. In fact, it's unhealthy not to have a certain level of turnover.
Yeah, is that because you don't get new ideas coming
New
in?
ideas, new talent, new methods of working. Yeah, just different approaches.
And maybe it means your package, like that you're offering your staff, is over competitive potentially.
It could be, yeah. Perhaps they're not being challenged enough to keep them interested in the role. Because if they were career focused, unless there was a role within your own business, they should perhaps be looking at the next step on their career path.
Yeah. Are there businesses you don't work with?
There's none blacklisted, but
Okay.
as a rule, we don't tend to deal with the public sector. So it's mainly commercially focused businesses that we recruit for. The exception to that, I suppose, is not-for-profit. We've got quite a few very good not-for-profit clients, and education as well, educational trusts.
Okay.
Again, got a few very good clients that are in that sector. They are quite specific because quite often they require skills from that particular sector. So taking educational trust, if somebody has experience in that, they're normally highly regarded by the employer.
Amazing.
Whereas commercial is much more transferable. So if you've worked for an engineering firm or a manufacturing firm or a service providing firm, those skills, as you probably know with finance, for example, are very transferable.
Yeah. What I wanted to find out actually is, do you have any external sources, books you read, YouTube channels you watch? How do you increase your knowledge of business? How do you educate yourself?
I'm very sort of in tune with current legislation. We're going to an expo, Recruitment Expo, in October, so that's just a few weeks down the road. So we go to that once a year, and often at that expo you'll find new products, new innovations. I remember going there about 4 or 5 years ago, and AI was new into the market. Now I'm sure when I go in October, there'll be more than one stand that's talking about AI. In fact, I know there are about 2 or 3 seminars specifically about AI at the October seminar.
And I guess that kind of stuff makes you a better recruiter, but is there something you use to educate yourself in terms of business strategy or mindset?
We have had business coaches in the past.
Okay.
I would recommend somebody who does look at a business coach. I think it can challenge you and make you look at things in a different way. We haven't currently. We've just come out of a coaching session which lasted about 6 months. We are considering going back into another 6 months.
Who were you with?
That was with Rock IT. So this is specifically for recruitment businesses. So the working methods they engage are geared towards recruitment specifically. It's from a company called Centered Excellence. I don't know if that makes...
I'm not familiar with them, but maybe some of the people watching this might be. Yeah.
But in the past, we've had an action coach, which is quite a well-known brand.
I've had an action coach for like 12 months. It's, And
have you currently got the action coach?
not at the moment. Currently, I don't have a coach. Although, one thing I was saying to Becky yesterday, we had our quarterly planning day yesterday, so we just had our 8th one, so we've been doing it for 2 years now. So we get business owners together, and we've got a requirement that they've got to be employers,
right?
Because and there's nothing wrong with self-employed people. That's great, but it's just like a lot of the conversation happens about growing as a leader and managing a team, and so it's very specific to people who are employing, but and they've got all of that in common, so they can talk to each other and get on really well.
Right.
So we had our 8th quarterly planning day yesterday, and I was saying to Becky actually, just some of these conversations I'm having with business owners, like, a lot of them, even though I'm hosting the day, I get to take part almost as a delegate at the same time, and I learn so much from it.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of figured out, just at the moment, I'm probably not going to do any coaching for a little while, because actually I've got other ways to have the right kind of conversations strategically.
Yeah. That sounds a very interesting way of approaching it, actually, because again, what we've found with coaching is that we actually prefer doing it for a set period, and it gives you new ideas and new impetus. But you need time then to catch up with yourself to actually
reflect on it.
Actually implement some of the things that you've been talking about, because it is quite time consuming. And I think that's one bit of advice I give to anybody that was considering coaching is don't go into it if you're too busy to 100% adopt it.
Well, I mean, by the way, the next quarterly planning day is on Wednesday, the 6th of December, if you are interested in joining us. And anyone listening to this, obviously. But coaching is quite expensive, I guess. So it
is.
And there's a saying, people who pay attention.
Yeah.
So I always found like, when I had a coach in the past, I was very aware of what it was costing me, and not just in terms of like actual money going out the bank account, in terms of opportunity cost, because you've got to take it from somewhere. Could you be spending that money training your team? Could you be spending it hiring someone else or doing something? So I was always aware of what it was costing, and that meant like, I'd definitely show up every like fortnight or every week, whatever frequency. And because I've always tried to make sure that if we spend money in the business, that if a member of our team would be expected to gain value from everything we spend, I just apply that standard to myself. So coaching's worked for me in the past because it's just one of those things that makes me pay attention just because of the cost.
Yeah, I think you've also got to go in with your eyes open and having a bit of a plan as to what you want to achieve from it. I think the first time we did it, we went into it thinking this would be a good idea, but not really understanding what it was we wanted to take away from it. Whereas the second time, we had a bit more of a clear understanding. But unfortunately, on the second time, I think the business was at a stage where it was so busy anyway, I don't think we were able to give it 100% with the coaching, because some of the things that you are coached on does take a lot of time and resource to actually implement. So it's getting the balance of is it worth it for you at that particular time? You have got to put time aside, and obviously the cost that's associated with it as well. But hopefully if you get the right coach at the right time and it's affordable, then I'd probably recommend it. I think you'll benefit from it.
So that's one of the main external sources of strategic knowledge that you've really gained from sounds of it. Yeah,
I'm quite lucky as well that probably how far back, going back to 2001 when I first stepped into the world of recruitment, or actually 2006 when I set up my first business, I relied quite heavily on a personal mentor of mine, which is actually my wife's uncle, but he's a very successful businessman. He retired at 55. And he sold a very successful business to enable him to do that. So although he's been retired for some years, that business mind has never retired. It's still very switched on to, again, challenging. It's a bit like the business coach. They'll challenge, why are you doing that? Well, have you thought of this? Giving you sort of different ideas, different sort of viewpoint. Because I think particularly if you're working in partnership in a family-owned business like ours, your bubble of understanding is within that business, and sometimes somebody looking at it externally can offer different advice.
That's really good. And do you want to follow in his footsteps? Do you want to build your business up and sell it one day?
One day, yeah. It's not something that's on the radar at the moment, but it's something that, longer term is something that is potentially on the plan. There are various options, as you know. It could be that we, grow the business to such an extent that the employees take a stakeholding in it.
Yeah,
so
employee ownership trusts or management buyouts, that kind of thing.
I think at the moment we're just too busy growing the business to worry about what the end goal is. Obviously having an understanding of what that may be is useful, but
are you at a point where the business runs without you, or could you take 4 weeks off if you wanted?
I think we're certainly getting there, and I have worked in the business when either we've delayed a holiday or had to even cancel holidays because you knew that you were going away at a critical or strategic time, that you couldn't rely on the rest of the team to pick up the baton for you. But I think with the team that we've got now, I'd have no hesitation on going on holiday and trusting them that things will be done as they always there. It's a nice position to be in.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you work on some really big projects, because if you did you mention you had to recruit 46 people?
In Sheffield?
Yes.
There's actually 49. Yeah,
just 49.
Under 50, yeah.
How do you go about that? Because you've got quite a small team. Well, sorry, it's not small, but you're compared to the number of people.
Exactly. Well, again, because we knew this project was coming on board at a certain time, although the times were constantly being pushed back, because this is for an automation engineering firm that was setting up a new automation site for one of their clients, so that their client was constantly changing the goalposts. But that aside, about a year before that, we knew the project was coming on stream, so we actually started to recruit for it a year before it opened. So going back to what I was saying earlier, we were engaging with candidates that aren't necessarily looking right now, but could be looking in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months' time, and just keeping in contact with them. This is the latest on the site. We've had a release of this type of role. are you interested? Do you know anybody else who may be interested? So that then led to a lot of networking. Or I'm not, it's not really a role for me, but I do know somebody I used to work with that could be a good match for that. So a certain amount came from reactive advertising. So when a role became live, we advertised it, obviously. But I would say probably more than half were filled with candidates that weren't necessarily responding to adverts. So it's the long-term planning for something like that makes the difference.
Yeah. And I guess, like, do you find national recruitment poses a challenge in its own right? Because I can imagine if you focused on Kettering, for example, you know a lot of the local people, you know local businesses, you know local candidates, and then suddenly you've got to recruit out in Sheffield where you might not know many people.
I think that was the second time I went to Sheffield, actually, when I visited the site.
I went to university there, and
well, that was the first time I went to see a university when my daughter was looking. So that was the first time I actually visited Sheffield.
Did she go in the end?
No.
Okay.
It's a good question, actually, because historically recruitment was ostensibly a fairly local business. Local firms, local candidates, local contacts that you used to sort of leverage to place roles. But again, I think COVID actually presented obviously a lot of adversity, but it presented a lot of opportunities. So candidates are much more engaged with video interviewing, with remote working, for example, all the things we've discussed, the hybrid workings, different methods of working. And that goes for the recruitment process as well. Whereas before, we always used to insist to see a candidate, to register them, register them online, in person. It's much more common now for us to actually do that by Teams or Zoom or some other sort of video format. And it's not 100% the same. You do lose a little bit of nuance, but it's certainly a lot better than a quick phone call or just going from somebody's CV. You do understand and you can ask certain questions and see the reactions that you're getting from candidates.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
And that actually followed through. So the client was also doing a lot of their first stage interviewing by video. So they weren't having to book rooms or dedicate a certain amount of time for people to be in a certain place.
Did you have to arrange a load of relocations, for example, or were they all local candidates?
Most of the candidates were local. There were, at the more manager level roles, there were one or two relocations.
But clients probably got their own team to deal with relocations and stuff, or do you guys do that as well?
If it's to do with the recruitment process, we deal with it for them. So we do the whole shebang. There wasn't a relocation package offered because of the levels of the role, but I was aware of candidates that would have relocated for the right role, which they did do. Yeah,
that's really good to hear. And there's a really good saying. Like there's someone I watch on YouTube called James Sinclair. So he's like a serial entrepreneur, loads of businesses, like 1,000 people in his team, and he always talks about the riches are in the niches. And I think he means to say niches, but obviously that doesn't rhyme. No, he's English, but he's just had to missay it so it fits the rhyme.
Yeah.
I guess you've got the niche of recruiting for commercial finance, and but although geographically you're not focused, but how do you then maneuver into engineering? Like, is there not enough commercial finance roles to recruit for? What made you make the decision to
it was actually
go into something else?
Yeah, it was a springboard from financial recruitment that we originally did for a particular client, and they were at the stage where they were looking at their recruitment process, and they had an in-house recruiter that was moderately successful, which meant they had to go out to external recruiters, often paying sort of fairly high commissions because they weren't necessarily going out exclusively to the recruiters. So their whole recruitment process was actually quite an expensive cost for them. And they were considering at the time looking at recruitment process outsourcing, or RPO. And the RPO essentially is when all of the recruitment processes are given over to a third party such as ourselves. Now that, as I say, it came from the back of a number of accountancy and finance recruitment that we had for the firm. And this was during the COVID lockdowns. So we were still recruiting one or two roles here and there during, not necessarily the lockdowns, but there were periods where it sort of came on and off. And from our point of view, the process went very smoothly and they reacted very positively to it. And I think timing was an issue there. So we were doing a very good job for them at the right time when they were looking at alternatives. And as I was saying earlier, sometimes adversity. So COVID was an adverse situation for most businesses, particularly when you didn't know how long it was going to last and so on. But actually, it is an opportunity as well. So that was an opportunity for me to actually dedicate, because it took a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of investigation to find out what is the best method for this, to make this work for us and for the client as well. So I don't think I would necessarily have had the time available to do that if business was growing at the rate that it was already growing.
So, I mean, that's good. So you're giving an example of a time when, although I know this isn't an interview, it's a podcast, but you're giving an example of a time where actually you had some downtime in your business and you actually utilised it to pivot and
Yes.
Into another area which is profitable for you. So, because a lot of the time, I think a lot of business owners, especially if they're 2 or 3 or 4 years into their business, they're going to have this feast or famine situation going on. So, and obviously you want to resolve that through having effective marketing and sales, but actually in the meantime, even when you're in that famine stage, there's things you can do to improve your situation in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we'd been through 5 years of fairly solid growth, year on year, and then, as I say, COVID hit, so it just completely turned our world upside down, and it was then, what do we do? You could have given in. You could have said, well, hands up, I'll give in, I'll do something else. But that's not our mentality. It's like, okay, how do we find a way around this problem? And we were engaging with clients that we'd been recruiting for many years. And one of the issues we found there was that although we were trying to communicate with clients, a lot of them were on furlough, so they weren't actually there to receive a phone call or an email anyway. But the ones that were, we engaged with and we sort of kept really good relationships with, and we did the odd bit of recruitment here and there as well, just to keep the ship afloat. But it really was this opportunity where we'd done a very good job for a finance recruit that then turned into diversifying into the engineering sector, which was very interesting for me. I mean, what I have found is that the engineering sector, from a candidate perspective, is actually very good. Engineers tend to be quite down to earth and say it as they see it, so you know where you stand with them. Now, again, people are people, and sometimes they will let you down, but generally engineers are fairly reliable. So if they say they're going to be in an interview, usually they are at the interview.
And do you feel engineers are similar enough to accounting people that you can use the same skill set on both of them?
Yes and no. There are some aspects. So, for example, they would have had to gone through some sort of formal qualification to be a qualified engineer, same as an accountant. They are usually different mindset individuals. At the end of the day, engineers tend to be quite hands-on.
Engineers are the very hands-on. Accountants are more theoretical, maybe, or
although a good, an accountant or a commercial accountant will be quite hands-on, understanding what makes the business tick, but in a different way. It's not a machine they're making work; it's a business they're making work properly. So there are a lot of parallels, but at the end of the day, when you're dealing with people, they're all individuals, and some people surprise you in a pleasant way, some people surprise you in a not so pleasant way.
You know what? Maybe you could answer or settle a sort of discussion me and my team have been having, because we all really struggle to recruit graduates, but after a while we just kind of gave up. Although if a good one came along, we would definitely talk to them with an open mind. But the best members of our team really come in through an apprenticeship,
right?
And time after, I'm a graduate, by the way, so but time after time we keep having this discussion about why would someone do an accounting and finance degree and pay about £10,000 a year plus the living costs, when they could actually just go straight into work, get paid like more than that, and then come out with the qualification and the experience at the end anyway.
That's a very good question. I mean, theoretically, if you have a degree, you should earn more over the course of your career, but it's not always the way. Again, there are people like Richard Branson who aren't degree qualified, who are tremendously successful in terms of their career. But I think, like you said, the cost of a degree these days is very high.
It's a mortgage for a house.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a deposit for a house.
It is. And I've seen a lot of people that have gone through a degree and then not used it. So they've spent 3-4 years of their life plus, say, £30,000-40,000 worth of debt, essentially, and then haven't used that degree to go on to do the career that they've got the degree in. So there is crossover. It could be that you have a degree that does transfer to different industries.
Yep.
But I think, again, to somebody looking to study a degree, they've got to be quite clear as to why they're doing it and what they want to do after the degree as well. Have a bit of almost a plan, what we're doing in 3-4 years' time.
That makes sense. But do you find, because I guess smaller accounting firms, they prefer the apprenticeship route, but are you finding larger businesses, do they prefer the apprenticeship route now? Because like my wife, who works at Barclaycard, and she does like business planning, but she's a chartered accountant. She works at Barclaycard, and they, like, for the first time, they've just got apprenticeships in finance now.
Okay.
And she's saying that's a relatively new thing, whereas like a lot of accounting firms I know, smaller ones, they've had apprenticeships for ages. So is there a case where like even larger corporations are realizing actually they would prefer apprenticeships?
I hope so, because what we found historically is that larger firms tend to like a degree, a sort of graduate recruitment. But the apprenticeship does offer somebody a much more practical approach to doing the job. You're in there doing the job, being paid for it as well, and learning from experienced, qualified individuals rather than in a theoretical environment all the time. So I do think you could potentially progress quicker, and particularly if they're supporting study as well. I'm a big sort of advocate of the sort of apprenticeship route. And we do see this in engineering. Obviously, engineering is one of those sectors that historically has had a strong apprenticeship background. But equally, we recruit graduates in as well. And generally, if you find somebody after 3 years of an apprenticeship or 3 years of their degree, the apprentice will be streets ahead in terms of the practical understanding of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, because they've been doing it for 3 years. They've not just been studying how to do it.
In terms of what you do at the moment, it's really two questions, but in terms of building your team, what do you find the most rewarding? And then in terms of helping your clients, what do you find the most rewarding? And is there like a good story that kind of explains where you've really made a difference?
So taking those individually. So in terms of the team, building the team, the rewards are really when you see somebody develop within their career or their role within our business. And
what would you say to the people who, like, there's so many self-employed people out there, and you must have spoken to quite a lot of them as well, who'd be like, oh, it's too much hassle to hire staff. It's like, it's too many things that can go wrong. And they never go down that journey.
I understand that, because it is a hassle and a cost to employ staff, but you've got to weigh up the potential advantage. You will never grow your business any larger than yourself if you don't employ anyone else. If you're looking to just be a sole trader for the rest of your career, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to grow the business, the only real way of doing that is with individuals coming into the business and growing it for you.
And what about from I think even in terms of leadership, you grow yourself, don't you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Well, again, every day, one of the things I do like about recruitment is that every day is different. I know there are a lot of careers like that, but sometimes you can come into the office, have an agenda of things you want to get done, and fine, you may get most of those done, but things will present themselves to you that were completely unexpected, and it takes you down a different path, a different project. And that's part of the interest, I think. It's that kind of, I need to give some thought to this particular project. How do I do it? How are we going to overcome the obstacles? What's the purpose of it? So that's the part that I find very interesting. And I suppose that when you recruit somebody, that's a mini project. That person is your project to develop into somebody who is paying for themselves and adding to the value of the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was talking to Mari Ramsey. She's like a leadership coach, and I think it was probably about 6 months ago, and she was trying to get to the bottom of why we recruit. And one of the things I've always said, I mentioned actually you grow yourself. Like people when they have kids, they grow. Like it doesn't get easier. You just get better. And
that's when you learn multitasking.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I almost look at it as the same thing in business. Like, people can make a really good living being self-employed or a sole trader, but like ultimately, like the challenges that and the adversity that comes with building a team, because there are a lot of challenges, but also the reward that comes from having good people in your business around you. It's it's not something I ever wanted to miss out on. But one of the things I said to Mari when we had this conversation was like, I remember when I was earlier on in my career and people gave me opportunities to learn from them. And those opportunities helped me build a career and then build this business. And I always felt like it was something I wanted to pay on. Like I didn't want to be the person that accepted those opportunities without creating them at the same time.
We're always learning, aren't we? We're always developing, or we should always be learning anyway. And if we can pass on that experience that we've gained over the years that we've been working to somebody who's coming into the industry new, there is a certain reward there, I think. I mean, one of our consultants who joined us early this year had never done recruitment before, and she is as valuable as anyone else in that business now. We could tell that she got what it was all about very quickly. She understood what we were about very quickly and had just adapted into the team. And that was fantastically rewarding for us. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons I enjoy the role now, and I get up every morning, is to work with the team. The team are brilliant. It's a really nice place to work. It's an enjoyable experience going in. And as I say, having these new challenges each day that you weren't expecting and new projects that are sort of coming to your way, it's a rewarding career.
And you know what? I don't know if you agree, but having a good team around you maintains your own standards, because when it doesn't matter if you're the managing director or not, you've got to meet those standards, because to retain those good people, they'll want to see that you're at their level or better. So you're always pushing yourself to be at their level. And I think I've seen challenges where people surround themselves in their business by people who are very average, and then they go down to that average level. So
there's a saying, isn't there? You should employ people that are smarter than you.
Yes,
and that's the way that the business develops and grows.
Absolutely. And do you find, like, I can imagine from a candidate point of view, it's quite rewarding, but what do you find most rewarding about dealing with larger corporations? Where do you get that satisfaction from?
I think from our point of view, it's doing a very good job for them. So where their expectations were at a certain level, we like to exceed those expectations. So if we say we're going to do something, we will make sure that we do it. It's very easy to treat each job as just another job. We'll just go through the motions. But we're in it for the long haul. The business has always been set up on the basis that we are developing a relationship for a very long period. It's a long-term business relationship. And sometimes when they have a job that they've found very hard to fill themselves, so perhaps they've tried other avenues, direct recruiting, through other recruiters as well, and then we can find candidates that weren't replying to adverts, that weren't actively looking in the marketplace. So we're sourcing them through various methods, through networking and so on, and we can fill that role for them. So I had one role, and this is a bit of a bizarre one actually. It was in Kazakhstan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I said our sort of coverage is wide and far, but that's the exception.
Yeah.
And it was for an oil mining company. And I think I got the role because the MD was previously the FD, and we recruited the FD into the company based in London. And anyway, he became MD, and he was looking for an FD to be based in the Kazakhstan area. And it's a bit of an unusual job. It was, 6-figure salary, very nice, but part of the package was emergency medical relief. So if you became ill, they used to fly you to a country that had hospitals. And that was quite an unusual situation there. And I've lost my train of thought. How to get onto that?
You mentioned you got that, like you mentioned that you were working on rewarding jobs, and then you're giving,
So that's quite the point. So he then said to me, I have actually been looking for this job for a few months, and I've just found nobody. He said, have you set up an office in Kazakhstan? I said, no, this is just through sourcing, through networking, advertising in the right places. And we actually had 6 candidates that they interviewed. And I think they did 2 or 3 at second interview, and then appointed somebody who started.
So did you find a candidate in this country to could fly out there, or
No,
did he?
he was actually, I'm trying to remember, he spoke Russian, so he was a Russian, but he was actually working in somewhere like Spain at the time.
Okay.
But he was one of these guys that would travel wherever the job was, essentially, so
Yeah.
he wasn't based in a particular country, because Kazakhstan is predominantly Russian-speaking, I understand, so
Oh, right,
the
okay.
Russian language was a big positive for them as
Are
well.
they in Eurovision? Like,
I think everybody is, aren't they?
oh yeah, okay, yeah. Apart from
Australia.
Russia, it's like it's.
Don't mention Russia, yeah.
But okay, that's an interesting one, and I guess that is the power of a referral and the power of a connection. Really, it can transcend the world.
Yeah, well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about looking after your candidates. So if you treat candidates properly and you look after them, you do your best for them, and even if you don't place them, they will appreciate that usually, and then they'll remember you and come back to you. That was a situation where we placed a candidate 3-4 years ago, and he came back to me to fill this very strange role in Kazakhstan.
And how many candidates did you place last year?
Gosh, it was probably around about 150.
Okay, and you got 6 people, but 2 of them are support staff, really. So you got
Yes.
4 consultants.
Yeah.
So, and 160, do you say?
About 150.
Okay, yeah, okay. So about 35. Oh no, sorry, 32 and a half each.
Yeah. Good job with good numbers.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it's. Oh, excellent. Okay, yeah. No, sorry, 37 and a half each. No, apologies.
We'll edit that bit.
Yeah, it's been a long day. And yeah, and so like 150 placements. How do you? I mean, you've mentioned a lot of it comes from your reputation already, connections you've already got. Do you do any marketing?
We have actually started this year to do much more marketing than we ever have, but pretty much all of those roles were from established clients, so clients that we've recruited for before have come back to us. Either we've had a special sort of relationship with them, or an arrangement or special fee arrangement with them, but they've come back because essentially we've recruited for them successfully before. But going back to the marketing question, so this year we've engaged a marketing company, and they've actually stretched our thought process, going back to sort of new challenges. And they,
Is that Ballyhoo PR?
it is Ballyhoo. When they understood our business, and it didn't take long for them to understand it, they presented us with all sorts of new opportunities. For example, the SME awards, like the awards here. So they said, well, why don't you present yourself?
I saw you at the last ceremony, actually, or the last.
It was tricky, actually,
awards.
the last one, this year. So we were very pleased that we won our very first award on our very first finalist.
What was the award?
It was for business growth.
Amazing. Okay, yeah.
But it did catch me out because I was at the bar getting a round of drinks for the team, and all of a sudden they shut the bar.
I remember, yeah, and you had to go out to the reception bar, and everyone was like looking around waiting for you.
Where is he? Yeah.
Yes, you were the guy, yeah.
And I almost came running back in, grabbed my jacket on the way onto the stage. And of course, I hadn't seen, because it's the first award ceremony we'd attended. I mean, it was the first award, and we were the first on. So I had no idea what to expect, what the process was, or anything.
Did you get the silver or the gold for that?
The silver.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
But we were honestly over the moon with that as our first.
It's an amazing accomplishment. Yeah.
And we've, I suppose, coming towards the end of award season now. We've also become finalists for the NNBN award as well. Northern Friends Business Networking. So that's October as well.
Is that Simon Cox who
Yes.
manages that? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to see how we get on there as well. Yeah.
Do you go networking with those guys?
We have done. We don't do a lot of networking that isn't client-based or candidate-based.
I guess because you're so niched anyway, like going to generic or general networking groups might not be as productive, I'd imagine.
It's a mixed bag. Historically, when we've attended networking sessions, we've found that the businesses that are there are probably a little bit too small for us to support.
Yeah.
So it's not really our marketplace, if that makes sense. But I do see the value of it, particularly for small businesses.
I guess
getting different approaches and different sort of ideas there.
It's always an opportunity to meet suppliers as well, because if not customers, but that's really good.
Yeah.
And do you do any other forms of marketing at the moment?
Well, that's about it. So, I mean, we've been in numerous publications, full-page spreads in sort of colour publications. in like the Evening Telegraph, for example. These are things that we would never have done on our own, I don't think. It's having the backing of a proper marketing company to find the story and then publish the story in the right sort of sphere as well.
Yeah. But I guess in general, your team double up as BDMs anyway, don't they? Because the kind of people who can get on the phone and they can do cold outreach, I'd imagine.
Yes, although we don't really do a lot of that, to be honest with you, because most of our business is repeat and recommendation business, which is a very nice position to be in. I suppose because, particularly Nikki and I have been in the marketplace a long time. We've known people a long time, and they will keep coming back to us. But there is a desire and an appetite this next sort of 12 months going into 2024 to grow the business further, and you can only grow at a certain extent from repeat business, so you need to develop new marketplaces. So that's something we are looking at throughout the next year as well.
Oh, excellent. Well, my next question was really just going to be like, what's next for Will's Consultants?
Well, obviously, so we've come to the end of the awards season. We're very happy with what we've done so far. We'll perhaps look at that again next year. It is really growth in the business, so it's growing.
Because you mentioned a BDM earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, so potentially we're looking to recruit another person into the business. Now, it could be another consultant or it could be a business development manager. We are also exploring outsourced business development as well. So this is, it should cost less than actually employing somebody, but there's lots of questions to ask about that. How they approach clients, what are they saying, how are they presenting us as a potential solution to them. So you do potentially lose a bit of control as to how the process works there, but that's something we're looking at. Again, you've got to be open to all ideas, I think, until you've found the one that fits best for your business. But we've outsourced other parts of the business in the past, more of the administration. So, for example, CV formatting, rather than consultants, as they do in some firms, literally typing up the CVs themselves. All of that is outsourced, so they're concentrating on the front line, the actual interesting parts of recruitment, we feel. So it's growth of the team, potentially, either a business development.
Sorry, help me understand one thing you just said. CV formatting. What's wrong with the CVs your candidates send you?
Nishi, that's a very good question, and one that's very personal at the moment, because traditionally in all the firms I've worked for, a candidate would present their CV to the recruitment company. The recruitment company would then copy that onto a standard layout. Now, the advantages for the client there is that they know where everything is. They haven't got to go searching for where their interests are, or where their nationality is, or whatever it may be on the CV. So it's a standard format, standard layout. And also it gives the recruitment company opportunity to make sure there's no silly mistakes, no grammar errors, no spelling errors. However, as I said, we've outsourced our CV formatting for some time, and we were looking at changing our supplier there. So we actually did a bit of a straw poll of some key hiring managers that we deal with quite often, and just asked them, would you like to stick with what you've got now, which is a formatted CV, these are the advantages, these are the disadvantages, or would you prefer to see the original CV, warts and all, spelling mistakes, full stops missing, whatever it may be, with perhaps a cover sheet just with a bit of background.
I'd want to see the original.
Well, that's what everyone said. And it perhaps surprised the team. I think it surprised me. I thought there would be more of a split. Some actually I quite like the way it's presented now. I can find things easier and so on. But unanimously, the response back was, I'd rather see the original, warts and all.
You learn so much about it, like, spelling mistakes, the way they format it, the template they use.
Now, there could be issues from a recruitment company point of view, in that you're perhaps presenting a candidate in not the best light, because they, perhaps Word formatting isn't their thing. They're not very experienced with formatting in Word. They could be a great accountant, Excel's their baby, and that's the thing that they are really good at, but Word isn't their thing. So it could be a lack of skill that could perhaps misrepresent them as a candidate. And if you format them, that is taken out. But I agree. I do think that you would take a view on that CV, won't you? They've got the skills that I want. They've got the qualifications I'm looking for. Not sure about the spelling there or whatever it may be, but you could question them about that. And also for certain roles, let's say marketing, for example, actually the formatting and the layout of the individual CV is probably part of their personality. You know, the way that they've laid it out, the things that they've put into that CV as well. So the only thing we'll take out now is the personal contact information, just from a GDPR point of view. So we'll take out phone numbers, email addresses. We're a bit 50-50 as to whether we should include the photo as well, because there is sort of ageism or racism issues there that you're presenting somebody and you can see how old they are, for example.
But they're going to figure it out when the candidate goes to the interview.
99% of the time, yeah, it's something they figure out, but it just takes away any sort of...
impartiality, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, it is something that we're, funny enough, it's a hot topic within the office at the moment, because I think all the consultants, we couldn't do that. You know, we want them all nicely formatted so they all look nice and well presented and so on.
You know, I guess CVs are still relevant, but do you find candidates are really, you know, keeping their social media up to date, for example? Because LinkedIn, I think, I still, like, sometimes I get a CV and then I'll search for that candidate on LinkedIn and I still won't be able to find it.
Yeah.
Find them even. Do you think LinkedIn should be superseding CVs, or are CVs always going to be relevant?
Certainly a crucial part these days. I mean, that's one of our go-to tools. It's a business-to-business tool, essentially. So if you're looking, and funny enough, I was discussing this with my daughter who's coming towards the end of her degree. What are you going to do when that degree finishes? How are you going to present yourself to the business community when you're looking for a job? And we were discussing LinkedIn and how we're going to make sure that her profile is appropriate for the sort of roles that she's looking to get into. But yeah, a lot of candidates still haven't latched onto it. Most are, certainly, I would say office-based roles such as finance or marketing. Most candidates now have seen the value of it and they'll make sure their information is up to date.
And do you think, like, going one step further, if a candidate really wanted to stick out or stand out, they could create some form of content? Obviously not like a podcast, or because that'd be a bit much for someone looking for a job. But actually, like, even when I do see a profile on LinkedIn that's up to date, like, you know, the next thing I do is just look to see if they've got any content and if they know how to create content, or
if they've contributed, essentially. And again, it could be particularly pertinent for certain roles. So it could be that they've included a PowerPoint or some sort of spreadsheet they've devised in there as an example of their work. So that could be something they could include in there. But it's also other forms of social media, and this is something I think catches a lot of candidates out. Their LinkedIn profile will be all nice and shiny and well presented, but then their Facebook has got some embarrassing photographs on there, or things that they wouldn't necessarily want other people to see that they've left open for the public to view. So if you are going to have a social media presence, you need to make sure, particularly if you're applying for a role, that it does present the right image of you. Because the first thing we do when we're employing somebody is look at their LinkedIn profile, look at their Facebook or any other social media to see, well, let's learn a bit more about this person before we ask them in for an interview.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess it goes both ways. From an employer's point of view, you've got to have the right image out there as well.
Yeah, and that's something that, again, from a business point of view, it's worth considering, because we've grown our subscriptions to our LinkedIn site, our company site, to 8,000 now. So that's quite a milestone for us. Yeah, and that's something we're looking, as part of that marketing strategy you were talking about. That's something we're looking to develop further. So it's a very easy way for people to learn about what you're doing, your latest sort of topic, etc.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And I guess really, one thing I'd really like to know is just, like, if you had to start all over again, or if you met someone who was like maybe 2 years into their business, what kind of advice would you give them?
A couple of things. The first is, don't forget why you're doing it. You've got to have a purpose, not just, I fancy working for myself. It could be family. As with myself, it was the birth of our first child that kind of drove me to change career, and then later on to work for myself. And then don't forget why you're doing it. So, there will be tough times, there will be easy times, there will be tough times throughout that person's new business. But when you're in those tough times, don't forget why you did it. I mean, one of the reasons I did it was that I wanted to go to every sports day. Yeah, I wanted to go to all the the Christmas nativity performances when they were young, because they only come round once, so you've got to enjoy it while it's there. And we were the same with our team. So if somebody has a special sports day or something that their children are attending, we'll say go and enjoy it. So that's a purpose. The other thing is, and I'm sure you'll condone this, is having a very close understanding of your financials. I think when we first started in business, it was the frontline recruitment. We were concentrating on the financials was something that happened in the background, but you need to have almost a daily understanding of where your profit and loss is, where your cash flow is. Without that, you can run into serious issues very quickly. So having a real tight handle on those key financial indicators is key, I would say. And if you think you're doing a good job, ask the referral. So a lot of our business tends to come from referrals and recommendations. So don't be hesitant in asking for that. If you've done a good job for somebody, asking for that recommendation, do they know anybody else is looking?
How big a difference do you think that makes? Because I know a lot of business owners are too shy to do that.
I would say at least half the time you ask, you'll get some sort of referral.
Wow, okay.
Like, I know somebody else who might be looking, or I know another manager in the business that may be recruiting for a role. Again, why wouldn't they? You know yourself, if you've had a good experience with a supplier or a firm, you're happy to.
Because a customer might not automatically think that, actually.
No, they won't. Yeah. They won't, unless you prompt them. I mean, we have a referral scheme for candidates, so if we get referred a candidate who we place, we do offer an incentive for the person who referred them. But that's not the reason they refer them. The reason they referred them is that they've had a good experience themselves. So if you don't ask, you don't get.
Is that Keith Lemon?
I think so, yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And I guess that's pretty much everything I wanted to know for now. But and if someone wants to get hold of you after watching this, what's the best way?
We've got a website, which is willsconsultants.com. Or they can email me directly, which is simon@willsconsultants.com.
Excellent.
Easy as that.
So, Simon, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And everyone, you've been watching the Unrelenting Drive podcast. So just remember to like, share, follow and subscribe when you do watch this, and stay tuned for future episodes.